Welcome to this episode of the Context Podcast by Proof+Geist. I'm your host, Martha Zink, and this is where we get to talk about whatever is going on in the Claris and FileMaker world. In this episode, Ernest Koe and Todd Geist join me to talk about ProofChat, which gives you the power to integrate conversational AI into your FileMaker solutions. We might even talk about Formula One and Todd's van. All right, welcome to the Context Podcast. Today I have Ernest Koe and Todd Geist from ProofChat. They have been designing and building ProofChat, so that's what we're going to talk about today. But let's just start with the basics. Ernest, do you want to give us a little elevator pitch on what ProofChat is?
Sure. So ProofChat is a FileMaker module. Think of it that way. It's a thing that you can drop and integrate into your existing FileMaker solutions, and then give people AI chat capability against your own apps and your own data. So it's think of this as ChatGPT, but the interface that drives ChatGPT, but in FileMaker and for your own stuff.
Nice.
How's
okay.
that?
That sounds pretty good. Okay, so we walk off the elevator and I'm like, tell me more, because now I'm interested. So, so tell me.
I got you. Right?
Yeah, I'm like, okay, you said ChatGPT, you said my data. So we're talking about something that's in FileMaker, and I can now use AI to access my data. Why did Proof decide to build something like this?
Yeah, I think there are a number of reasons, but I mean, just to level set a little bit, I mean, most of us are probably familiar with ChatGPT or Claude. I love Claude. That's sort of my go-to AI kind of conversation chat agent. And it's great, right? It's trained on the world's data, but it's not trained on your data. It's not trained on my business data. And so there's often a lift, especially in FileMaker, there's often a lift to sort of connect the dots, right? Connect AI to the things that are locally yours. So that's problem number one. Now it can be done, but there, and we can get into the details of this a little bit. But the basic idea here is that we think AI is pretty important. I think AI is pretty important as a surface and a new capability for developers, but also for users, especially when it comes to working with data and business applications and custom apps in a whole different way that we expect to do with AI. The question was always for us, look, how do you do that in FileMaker easily? Because, hey, we've got so much data and we've got terabytes, petabytes, globally of amazing FileMaker apps doing amazing things. But how do we add a chat AI layer on top of it without reinventing that wheel over and over again, right? Because the value isn't the chat interface itself. I mean, that's important, that's necessary. The value is really how we get beyond just building another chat UI, but to actually get into the experience of using chat and doing AI-driven applications and solving AI kind of workloads after building that UI. Right. So that's, I think, the most important reason. Todd, what do you think?
Yeah, I think this is a new paradigm, and I think it's important to start to experience what this new paradigm is good for, what it's maybe not good for. And the only way to do that is to really experience it within the data. I mean, if you're thinking about like, how do I create value for my business,
right,
and my business runs on FileMaker, then that thing has to intersect. So if we're hearing AI all over the place, and we want to understand how to bring AI into the FileMaker world, one of the ways to do that is through chat. That is sort of what people are experiencing. That's what they're used to. I don't think it's the end way in which we'll be doing AI in FileMaker. It's just one way, and it's one way that people understand and are now experiencing on a regular basis. I think OpenAI just announced they have something like 800 million monthly users of ChatGPT. So it's a thing, right? Like, it's a thing, and we can see, if you're watching what they're doing and what Anthropic's doing with their chat application and others, you can see that there's a lot of experimentation going on in this space, a lot of new stuff happening with MCP servers and UI and all this fun stuff. So how do you start that with FileMaker? How do you get FileMaker into that picture? So you could decide to use the built-in FileMaker script steps and learn maybe some web coding, and spend some time figuring out how to use generate response from model to interact with a LLM,
Right.
and to then create the UI, which does the ChatGPT like streaming of text and all that stuff. That is one approach that you could take, and that'll take you 100, 200 hours, and then you will be able to answer the question: is chat something that's useful for my application? Like,
Right.
okay, that's one approach. You can certainly do that. That's a couple hundred hours in for you to figure that out. Or you could just use ProofChat, which will, within 2 hours, you'll be actually able to experience the power of FileMaker and chat mixed together, and to see, and then to go to the next level, which is like, okay, now I've got this experience. Now, how do I get to the actual things that are important for my business? So we've kind of done that upfront investment for you to get ProofChat, to get a chat experience into FileMaker, and not just like, on a FileMaker layout, but with a rich web viewer based chat experience that looks and feels a lot like ChatGPT. So it's not going to be based on layout objects on your FileMaker layout, which are fine for doing forms and basic reports and things like that. But it's not going to do the streaming chat interface the way that people are expecting to see with quote unquote chat. So that's what ProofChat was a way. It started out really as a way for our teams to get a jump start.
Mm-hmm.
So now that we can go to clients and say, hey, look, we can do this now for you. And that lift to get their data integrated with chat is a few hours, not hundreds of hours, right?
Yeah.
So it started as an internal tool, and then we said, okay, well, let's see, is there an interest in the wider community to do this? And so that's kind of where it is now, where we're sharing it with the rest of the community to let other people experiment and to use it with their own stuff.
Yeah, I think of it as like sorry, Martha, go ahead.
No, good.
I think of it as like a really powerful starting point for AI applications or AI experiences, right? You need it. It's a lot of work to build something really great and works well and is easy to support and all that, and also something that works with a very native FileMaker experience, right? That it works with your scripts, it works with your tools, and we can talk about tools in a second. But that's a heavy lift, and to have to redo that each time just seemed a little bonkers, So I think that's one reason ProofChat exists. It's really a thing that we hope we can use to get to the kinds of problems that really deliver value for businesses and for customers and so forth. But I think it's worth mentioning a couple of things. One, a lot of this is possible because of FileMaker 2025 or V22. There's a lot of underlying AI features that got shipped with it, and this sits on top of it, and it's an important thing. This wouldn't really be possible without a lot of those capabilities. And so I think the challenge, of course, is that FileMaker gives you all the components and all the tools and all the things, but it doesn't actually give you the fully finished, polished chat UI, and that's really what we're talking about here with ProofChat. And also to be clear, the second point here is that we're still talking to LLMs and models and AI models out in the world, or locally, publicly, or privately if you host them. So we are bringing OpenAI and other models into the conversation. ProofChat itself is not the AI engine or the AI model, but it gives you options to connect to models of your choice to do the kind of work that you want to do, in chatting with your data.
A couple things. I think I sense a pattern. I remember that Auto FMS started as a thing that was for the team to be able to deploy faster, and then it became for the community. And now I'm hearing the same thing about ProofChat, right? It's something that we, as a team internally, wanted to be able to use and then help with, and then distribute it to our customers and our clients. And now it's something that we want to share with the community too.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So that's one thing. The other thing, which I think is important, it's the starting point concept, which is, it's not like you drop in ProofChat and then you're off to the races, right? It's like you drop in ProofChat, and now you're going to figure out how to use it. What benefit do you get from it? How is it going to best serve you as a user? Does that sound right?
Yes, I think it is important to understand. Like one of the things we've done some live streams with like Richard Carlton's FM training live stream and stuff, and what people go through a process when they're learning this, and at first everybody says AI is going to take your job, and then they realize after they see what it actually takes, and I'm not talking about getting ProofChat into your system, but like connecting it up to your FileMaker data. You realize that no, your job isn't going anywhere. It is shifting though. So you are now going to, instead of maybe doing a lot of FileMaker layout work, you might do more work writing scripts that end up being tools that the AI can use, for example. So there is still a part of the conversation that begins when ProofChat is now in your system. Okay, now what specific things can we do with this new capability with our business data that makes sense for our business? That process is still there and still part of what you as the developer and you as the team that's implementing this into whatever system, you still have to go through that. Like that doesn't magically go away, right? Like you still have to figure out, okay, what are the things that we can use this for and how do we make that work really well, work reliably? So it is still there. So this is like get over the hump of getting to the point of now we can actually experience AI in our application and develop the things that we actually want to build with AI. If you don't have ProofChat, you spend 100 hours or 200 hours getting to that point before you even get to the point of integrating with your particular system, right?
I just thought of a really terrible analogy, so I'm going to try it.
That's good because we love those here. The more terrible, the better,
The more
right?
terrible, the better.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of like Formula One racing, right? I mean, we all want to drive those fast cars and do the GPs and be part of the whole excitement but to do that, you need the car, you need the pit crew, you need all that training, you need all that work, before you can even start like doing a really hard thing, right? So the Formula One experience is already hard. That's like AI. Like AI is new, it's high end, it's all kinds of cool things. Again, it's an amazing experience, but you need everything else to be there ready for you in order to even have a chance at doing that race, right? So I think ProofChat is like the car. It's all the technology. It's all the things that get you there. And then then the flag goes down. Then you still have to drive the race of actually doing the AI stuff,
Yeah. I mean, it's not a very terrible analogy, Ernest. Bad points. Because if you think about it, like, okay, I'll extend the mildly terrible analogy. Without AI, it's like you're driving, you're like, I have a Honda Odyssey, right? Like, great car. I love it.
It's an awesome car.
It's an awesome car. It's going to have a really hard time competing on the Formula One circuit, right? But I can drive it. I'm going to drive it all the way to Watsonville next week, and it's going to be great. And I'll listen to my favorite sci-fi book or whatever it is all the way up. It'll be fantastic. But it would not allow me to get on a Formula One racetrack and compete in any way, shape, or form, right? And so it's kind of the same thing. It's like you can do FileMaker stuff. You are the driver in this. In case you were wondering, you FileMaker dev are the driver.
You are the driver,
in this metaphor, and your pit crew is, your users and your staff and the people around the system that are helping you to create the system. All the rest of your team. And so you could, you could manage that drive from here to Central California. What ProofChat does is give you a shot at competing in this new arena, AI / Formula One, kind of thing. So that's it. That's it. So actually, I don't know. It's an all right analogy. It's pretty.
It was a good analogy, Todd, and then
I ruined it. Is that right? Did I make it sufficiently bad?
No, it's great. I like it.
I will not comment. I'll let you all decide later how you feel about it.
But that's it. That is it. I mean, it might be hard pressed to say ProofChat is Formula One, but it's definitely a new kind of automobile. This whole AI thing, it's a new way of driving. Maybe is a way to say it. Yeah. And it has new capabilities like being able to corner at 90 miles an hour.
Correct.
Something like that, which you couldn't do in my Honda Odyssey. So that's not bad. That works all right.
One parallel that I see with custom software and AI is that without knowing what problem you're solving, it's kind of tricky to get started or build it. Like, yes, you can have a custom database or a custom system, but why? Like, why do you need that? You need to have a reason, right? I need to track my recipes. I need to run my business. I need to
100%.
manage my manufacturing process, whatever it might be, right? And I think, as I've seen both personally and professionally, people pick up AI, you see them think like, this is cool. Like, I see the Formula One race car, but I don't know what it like. It's like they don't have an understanding of what's about to happen or how it works or how they're going to use it or where they're supposed to sit or watch or do anything. So I'm curious, when you think of ProofChat, fitting into whether it's our customers' work or our internal work, our internal systems, how do you see ProofChat coming to life? How is it going to get used?
Really good question, and I think I'm going to answer it in kind of
Another
analogy.
analogy. Monkey.
Let's use a simile this time. Why not?
Iambic pentameter, maybe. We'll talk in poems.
We always do. What are you talking about?
Great expectations. I think ProofChat and Chat UI in general lives in a little bit of a different space. I think it's actually two things in one. It's a new kind of interactive environment to do to perform that exposes a set of capabilities that we're just not accustomed to in traditional software land, right? I mean, you're just clicking buttons, filling out forms, having screens that are two-dimensional, and now you have a layer of capability that is new, and that generates all kinds of possibilities that we don't even know might be possible or is possible right away, right? So often it's like the way I think about it is that it has the capacity to just serve as a general interactive interaction surface that is just new and powerful and different, and then the usefulness and the things that we're going to get out of it, the value we're going to get out of it, is this open road. I think about how I use chat. I mean, when I started with Claude and ChatGPT, initially it was just, hey, doing it like Google, right? Just asking questions and getting answers back. And then it sort of evolved. And then I realized that it could actually function as sort of a UI for me to perform work. Like, so instead of actually going to my time tracking thing, I'm doing that through Claude, right? So I'm asking Claude to serve as my assistant to actually do that kind of work. And that's totally new. Like, that didn't exist before. And then the adjacent possible was, well, if you can't do that, why can't you kind of interrogate my calendar? Why can't you kind of figure out what I'm missing? Can you suggest new ways for me to work with the data that I already have? So I think that experience for me was sort of transformative, because I sort of realized that there is a general set of capabilities with just working with an agent, a chat agent in this case, that we just don't really have a lot of language or prior concepts to kind of map to our everyday work, right? In fact, a lot of the problems that we've designed software to solve, I think, were designed because we were constrained by the flatland two-dimensional UI surfaces that exist. So we imagine solving problems directly by making screens and exposing fields and building layouts and whatnot. And I think what chat, and by extension ProofChat, brings is to invite the question, what if you didn't have to do that? What if you could just reimagine and work completely differently, right? And so I think so the baseline, that's the first problem it solves. Like, how do you reimagine work in a way that's more human or more human-centric? So I'm not prescribing like it can do X or it can do Y. It's like it's capable in very specific ways. I think those things are going to come. But just as a general capability, chat is not just about working, solving problems in the traditional way. So I'll start there. But getting less theoretical, I would say that The way I imagine this evolving is that chat is the UI, one of the major surface areas for UI for all kinds of things, right? So you can actually imagine widgets and components being expressed in chat, in this chat surface, right? So rather than starting with the UI that's already been built, you start with a conversation with an agent that gives you the UI on demand, right? Dynamically. It's like, if I need a form to fill something out, well, it just tailor a form that makes sense to you. Maybe you don't even need a form. Maybe you just listen to what you have to say and say, hey, check me on this. Is this right? And then can I proceed to fill this out, or to submit that request, or book that appointment, or whatever that is, that you have in mind. So I think that's the thing that I'm really curious and maybe excited about.
Yeah, I think I don't think it's clear what the future is exactly in terms of whether we're all chatting with things, or there's no apps, we just chat. It's not clear. Like, I don't think anybody who tells you that they can see exactly what's coming is, they're just fooling themselves or trying to fool you, one or the other. But it is clear that there's definitely new capabilities and new powers that we didn't have before, and it is likely to shift the way that we build applications and the way our users use applications. That's very clear. The current metaphor is chat, and it's a pretty good start. We'll see where it goes from there. But it is a new kind of surface. We've seen things we've seen like chat-based UIs for a while in some ways. Like, there's lots of apps that only work through text messages, right? CVS actually has a really good app, but they also, when your prescription's ready, they send you a notice, hey, your prescription's ready. Do you want it delivered? And you just say yes or no, and you type in yes, and you get or do you want us to hold your prescription and skip this one, right? Like, there's been this kind of conversational UI that's been evolving through text messaging for quite a while. Also, if you think about how long the text metaphor has been around, the first UIs were all chat terminals. They were all this way. Mm-hmm. So there is something about this text-based UI phenomenon that has been around way before the graphical user interface. So it actually predates that. So in some ways, we're coming back to that, and so that, I think, is where, why I think there is something to this. Will it replace all screens? No, probably not. Mm. There's going to be dashboards. There'll be things that are static, but you might design those static dashboards through a conversation with a chat agent of some kind in the future. And then you're like, okay, this is the screen I like. This has all of my KPIs on it. Save this for me, and I will, whenever I ask you for it, just show me this, right? So I think we're headed towards something like that. But I think, for right now, chat is a good place to start. And so what you want is a good way to experience and experiment with that with FileMaker, right? And so that comes down to having a good UI and then connecting it to your data and to your system, which is the next really, really important part. Because one of the, the jokes are that chat can't spell, right? Which is very interesting. There's very interesting theoretical reasons why it cannot tell you how many R's there are in strawberry and things like that. But the joke is that it makes things up. What's that?
It's better now about that.
It's better at strawberry, but it still can't spell.
It still can't spell.
You give it other words and it can't do it. And the reason is because it doesn't actually look at the English language. It has tokens. It has numbers back there. So it can't do it. Anyway, that's theory. The main thing is that it can hallucinate, right? It will make things up. And so you have to be able to take this new experience that the new thing that it brings is that it can understand what your intent is when you ask it questions. And then how it answers, though, it could make things up because it thinks, it wants to be your friend really badly. So it'll make things up. And so how do you constrain it so it actually gives you your sales numbers for the month, actual sales numbers for the month, instead of what it really just thinks you might want to hear, which is number go up, right? Like, number go up's great, right? So how do you do that? And so that's where that's where you as the former FileMaker developer, now
This is going to
Formula One
stick, this Formula One thing.
you have to come in and figure out, how do I corner properly? And when the corner is
Right.
that way, how do I do that? And so that is where that's where you go now. The good news is that basically the way you do that is the way you've been developing FileMaker apps forever, which is you write scripts. You write scripts, you design schema that stores your data, you design queries that can query your data. And so there's nothing new about how you write the guardrails and the rules and the tools that your chat application can use. That's FileMaker. This is the same stuff you've been doing for 20 or 30 years, if that's how long you've been at it. There's nothing new about it when it comes to how do I connect, how do I make sure that when I ask it a question, it actually can answer correctly instead of making things up. And so that was one of the goals of ProofChat was, we'll take care of the UI, the nice UI. We'll take care of the model calling to get that nice agentic process going. You, FileMaker / Formula One driver, you corner like you've been cornering forever. Write a script. That's it. Write a script. You know how to write scripts. Just write scripts, and then you'll be able to do it. So that's a primary goal. Is whenever we can return the power of FileMaker, whenever we can give the power to the FileMaker developer to make this work, we do. And primarily that, again, is we call scripts. So when you ask a question and the chat, because of the way we configure the scripts that are connected up, it says, oh, I know how to get the KPIs. I know how to get the sales numbers. I call the script, which is get sales numbers. And you query your database, you get back the numbers, however you need to do that. And you return that as an exit script step. Boom. Now the chat's got the numbers and they're not made up. They're exactly as your script tells it to be. And that's really important, right? That's the key thing. How you marry this new capability that the AI models bring, which is they can understand your intent. That's really cool. And so that's sort of probabilistic, because that is a probabilistic problem. Like how close can they get to your intent? That's actually pretty good. Then they're going to try to answer that. That's also a probabilistic thing. I'm going to try to give you an answer. How do you connect that to a deterministic process, which is the FileMaker script? Mm-hmm. And that's what ProofChat gives you, the tools to do that.
I want to go back to your question, Martha, because I think I got a little theoretical there, which is, I think you're trying to ask, what kinds of problems can we solve with chat? Maybe something like that, right? I mean, is that right? Maybe?
Yeah, no, I like the theory, and I like that I like thinking through what this looks like in the future. But similar to when we're talking about AI and what it might look like in the far future, whether that's 3 months, 6 months, or 2 years. There's the what can we do today, right? And we're saying right. ProofChat is the today. It's the thing we have today. So what does that look like? So what can we implement today, or what problems can we solve today with it?
Yeah. So let me take a stab at that. I mean, I think at the very sort of practical level, you are going to be able to ask questions about your database without having to write predetermined scripts or predetermined queries or finds or layouts to support it. Right. I think that's kind of a superpower, which is it goes back to this idea that a lot of what we do before AI as software developers is to try to figure out how to build the right thing for the user, right? We're trying to lock in a set of experiences because the cost of getting it wrong is pretty high. So you go through a design experience and you kind of go through iterations to kind of solve for it. But what we're really doing is kind of predetermining or baking in hard coding. That's a good way of putting it. We're hard coding a lot of UI. We're hard coding a lot of queries. We're hard coding a lot of experiences. These are all these like paved paths for you to go around and do stuff, right? So you can create an invoice. You can send make an order. You can ask certain questions about about your database. You can do these kinds of finds. You can, and if in FileMaker land, we have this query by example experience, but that's actually kind of weird, right? In the software world, I mean, most software experiences don't give you the ability to just kind of noodle around with your data and be kind of loosey-goosey about not having a real idea before you begin to work, right? You have to actually hit the right buttons or write the right queries or whatever. So I think the most practical thing that ProofChat and chat in general brings is that you don't have to predetermine a lot of stuff by just exposing a UI that gives the users a way of like exploring, interacting with the data to the extent that the tools and the scripts support it, right? So I think that's the first thing. But I tell you, I mean, these days I'm doing things like building my own reports, basically. I'm pulling data and say, summarize this for me, or produce this layout. I mean, the typical things of, hey, can you write a message, and can you create a response, or improve an email, or refine. I mean, all that is absolutely kind of table stakes. So you can do that with chat today. But the cool thing is, if you marry this experience to your FileMaker data, it can integrate that data into that flow as well, right? So, hey, I want to respond to this email, but give me a summary of the invoices that have been paid to date as a starting point. Like, that's not trivial. And that seems like a powerful capability, especially when you don't have to go through the work of exporting the data, dropping it into Claude, dropping it into ChatGPT, doing that work, and then bringing it back into your database and all that stuff. Right?
I think another interesting way to think about what chat is increased bandwidth of information, either in your brain or in other documents, into your system, right? So I'm not a good typist. I'm pretty bad. Like I predate computers being in the home. So there was typing class in high school. I didn't take it, that's how far back I go. I was able to take my first programming class in high school, which is pretty amazing for the early 80s, but I'm not a good typist, right? So I make a lot of typos and that kind of thing. Chat doesn't care, right? Like it just doesn't care about my typos. It'll correct it for me. And so you start to experience it as higher bandwidth. And so let me get concrete about that. So let's take a simple example of, I want to create a contact in my system. Standard way to do that is, if I'm in a FileMaker system, first I have to navigate to the place where I can enter a new contact. That's step one. So I'm either going to mouse, or I'm going to do some kind of keyboarding around to find the button to click. First I have to know where that is, number one. I have to know. Then I have to go to that place. And then I have to start typing. What if the information that I want to enter is on a business card? Now I have to read, I have to type, I have to correct typos. I have to do all of that. All of that. Now, some people are very fast typists. This is not a problem for them. They know the system perfectly. They live in it all day long. This is all they do is enter contact messages. They're going to get very good at that muscle memory. They're just going to do it. Absolutely true. They have developed the muscle memory and the skills to make that bandwidth very high. For everybody else, they have not. So in a chat-based environment, I can have that. I can take a picture of the business card with my webcam. I can drag it into the chat interface and go create a new contact with this information. And it'll pop up the chat because I've given it a tool that knows how to create contact information. And the chat can read a business card because the multimodal models, it's not OCR. They can actually read it and they can go, oh, this is a business card. I should be looking for these things on it. And it can find all that and it'll pull out the information. And then my FileMaker dev has written me a nice script which pops up a window and says, is this what you wanted to enter? And I can say, yes, click confirm, and it's done, right? So now I have taken a process which I have to have developed a lot of skill to do very quickly in one form or another, to a process where I need almost no skill and no predetermined knowledge to get it entered properly into the database. And so that, I think, is one of the things that is underappreciated when we talk about what AI brings. What it brings is a much higher bandwidth from information in place A into information in place B, which is my system, way faster than if I had to develop all that stuff before. That's a very practical example, and you could imagine, you start to, especially, you have a lot of users who maybe don't use the system all that often. They don't have to be experts at the system. They can just ask the chat. Maybe all the chat does is say, oh, by the way, this is where you go to create that information, and here's a button to click to go to that layout, which you can do too. You can write tools to do that. Maybe that's all it does, is it teaches them how to use it. But that's a win too, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
No longer do they have to go through this process of learning how your particular system works, because the AI can figure out what the user wants to do and connect them with the UIs, or just run the function for them without them having to be experts in it.
What I like about your example around the business card is this idea of simplifying the data entry or the data collection, but then still allowing room for validation. That feels really important, right? Because when we think of AI, we know that it's doing some guessing, it's doing its best. It's a very eager intern, but it's going to get some stuff wrong, or it might have pulled something incorrectly from what it saw in the image. And so I love this idea that with the combination of scripts and custom dialogues or card windows or whatever it is, you have the ability to then say, yes, this looks good, or shoot, no, let me just fix this one thing you got wrong. But it did 90%, 95% of the work, right? Like that's one of the biggest wins that I see. And that's some of that bandwidth thing that you're talking about.
Right. And let's take it one step further. Let's keep going with this, because I think this is not clear right off the bat. But when you start to use this, you get to experience. So we've done a business card, right? And the way I did that was I wrote a script which knows how to create contacts based on information in the chat. Like the script I wrote doesn't know anything about business cards, doesn't know anything about images, doesn't know anything about that. All it knows is that the chat is going to give me contact information, and I show a card, and then the user clicks OK. That's the script, right? Once you've got that script in there, you can now take a CSV file of 20 contacts, drag it into the chat, and say, create 20 contacts from this CSV. And it's just going to happily go through that process. You could say, okay, here's a CSV, create the first contact. It's going to show up a window. Good, great. Create the second contact, show up a window. Great, right? The FileMaker developer did not write a new script which says, take the data from a CSV and parse that CSV and then run this script. The developer didn't write that. They wrote the new contact script. The chat figured out how to use the new contact script, and it doesn't care whether the information to use that came from a business card in an image or a CSV file that it dropped into it. The chat can figure out your intent. So now we get into what the AIs can bring to the table that we just didn't have before, which is that connecting intent to functionality, right?
That's a really important example, I think, that CSV idea. So, I mean, in the past, if you wanted to import something into your database, you would ask a user, show me an example of your file. How many columns does it have? Is it labeled the same way or named the same way? And then we will map it, do the mapping, and then we'll write an import script to kind of test it and do all that. And you get to do it against this template, against this set of data, against this exact specification that one time.
Yeah, if the column name is off by one letter,
right,
it doesn't work.
It doesn't work, right? In AI land, you just say, hey, we know how to import data in because we've written that script, and you throw a bunch of data into in this case chat or ProofChat, and you say, hey, I like to import this data, go figure it out, here are the tools we can use, and you'll do it. So I think this goes back to the idea that it allows us as developers to not anticipate all the edge cases and predetermined hard-coded rules of doing work, but we can focus on exposing capabilities, underlying capabilities, like create a contact, import some data in a batch way, that sort of thing, and then letting AI actually do the heavy lifting in making our intention actualize by mapping what the user wants to what's possible.
Yeah, it might be worth just taking another second to go a little bit deeper on this process, because it might be a little magical. I mean, it is kind of magical, but so going through that process, like Ernest was just talking about, where you, as a developer, right, you'd do an import script and you would say, this is the format that it must be in, and it can't be any other way. Now, what you're doing instead is you're describing in the script, in the script and how you configure it, you're describing that this script needs these parameters. It needs a first name, a last name, an email address, right? It needs these things. And it basically is, that's the contract. You're no longer having to hard code that. You just simply tell the AI, look for this kind of data in the data that you've already got in the chat and parse it. And AIs are really good at this. And that's the thing, right? So it doesn't actually care whether the column names are right. It doesn't actually care. It's going to make a good judgment based on what kind of data you give it. So the CSV could have totally different column headers. It's still going to look at that CSV and go, okay, this is the first name. That looks like a date. And it might say it looks like I've got this, and you can build that in to your prompt and say, hey, show me what you think this is, and I will correct you whether it's right or wrong. And then so it shows you, this is what I think you've got. This is the mapping. I think it's right. And you can say, great, that's correct. Go ahead and create the script. Great, create the data, and it will do it. So it's what you describe, what the AIs can do, the LLMs can do, is they can take a contract, a description of what I need to find in this jumble of text and get it. And then it doesn't matter how that jumble of text gets into the picture, anything you can think of, it'll find that stuff. It can guess the intent out of there. It'll find the first names and the last names and the addresses. So things like take a giant list of, take a whole like email thread, throw it in there and say, give me all the email addresses that are in this thing. It's going to do that, right? It's going to do that. Find all the contacts in this email thread, every single person that was in this thread, find all their data, create a list of that. Beautiful. Create a contact for each one of those emails, right? The AIs are really good at that part that we just described there, of picking out of the text that's in there what it needs to then pass to your script. And so that's very powerful, right? And so there's all kinds of use cases where that's in the mix. That kind of process in the mix.
So, I like the word intent, and I think we're really honing in on how important that is and how much flexibility that gives us. For any long-time listeners, we've talked about lowercase design, so UI and UX. We've talked about capital D design.
Capital D design.
Capital D design. When we talk about design thinking and solving the right problem. And this starts to skew things a little bit, or it feels like it. So what's your take on it? Is this going to kill, we talked about the concerns of AI taking our jobs. We're not feeling that way today.
No.
Is this killing design?
It definitely shifts.
What's happening?
It definitely shifts.
No. Is design dead? No more capital D?
No more capital D design. No,
everything's lowercase now.
I mean, there's a philosophical discussion that's worth having here, but maybe saving for another podcast because it can go pretty deep. But I think it's very clear that the AIs are good at producing useful design. Like you can see this all over the place now. That is happening. So will you spend as much time in layout mode as you did in the past? I think the answer is probably no. You're going to spend less pushing pixels around. But design is not just about the graphical UI, as we all know here, right? And so there's still a whole heck of a lot of design that has to go into this process. It might just be more in designing the scripts, or it might be in the prompts that you have to feed to the LLMs to give it the guardrails that it needs to perform the task that you want it to perform. So there's definitely that. So it shifts the work, but it doesn't annihilate design from the process here. In fact, if anything, it gives you more chances to be in design. Like I can say, like when I'm writing stuff outside of FileMaker, I spend a lot more time now in what I would think of as design type processes, like working through designing these are the goals of the thing. This is what it's supposed to do. This is the experience that it should have. And then I get to actually tell the AI to generate code that implements that. And I get to do that more times. So I get to cycle through that design process more often than I did in the past, because some of that work gets handed off to the AI and it does it for me. So I think it just changes what design is and where we spend some of the cycles, but it doesn't get rid of it.
This should be another podcast, and I would love to, I think, talk about this. But let me try this just as maybe a quick gateway to that idea. For a long time, modern software went through this arc of adopting modern industrial design ideas to build software, right? So you think about Apple's entire trajectory. It's sort of like that, human-centered design, what has its roots in actually human-centered industrial design. And how do you make chairs that work for people? How do you make offices that work for people? How do you make software that work for people? And all these principles kind of follow from those basic idea that we want, because the cost of getting it wrong is high.
That's right.
What we want to do is to try to build a system where we can be intentional about the experiences that we have to hard code. So it was like a hard coding problem. Like a lot of software was, how do you get to a place where we're hard coding the right things? And because once you make that layout, you've made that layout. Microsoft Word's UI has been that way for forever. It doesn't change. And because whether intentionally or not, it was quote unquote designed for that. So I think, though, there is a sense here, I think, that kind of design is giving way to something different, right? If the purpose of design was to find the right UI so that we get it right when it's still cheap to get it right, if we don't have to predetermine so much today, then maybe that kind of design isn't the most important thing or the focus of design. And maybe a capital D design shifts to something that Todd's alluding to, which is really understanding capabilities that we need to deliver to people so that we can create experiences that use the underlying tools and features and capabilities, but not predetermine the final set of constraints that you need to expose to your user in a hard-coded way and get locked in. I think that's where design is probably going in software, right? It's like, how often do we live in an environment where we look at, say, entering a new contact into a CRM, and you go, I really need this extra field, or this is not the way I think about this particular contact. I need other properties. And, if you're in an environment where you have all kinds of flexibility, then it's almost impossible to use. Or if an environment is really simple and really basic, then when you hit an edge case, it's like it's completely useless, and so nobody uses it, right? So it's like these constraints may not be constraints anymore, because those interfaces can be dynamic. Not just that the UI or the visual presentation can be dynamic, but the kinds of interactive components that you need or surfaces that you need to solve that problem doesn't actually have to pre-exist before the user can use it. I think design's going to shift to asking those questions, like what do we need to be able to enable users to interact with, not so much what specific kinds of fields or buttons or whatever they need to be clicking on to complete the design.
Yeah, it feels like a switch in the type of problem solving, right? We're doing a different version of problem solving.
Yeah.
So it's just a new muscle that we've got to work on.
Yeah, and I think another thing that's very clear, like there's a lot of things that I can say about where I think things are going, and most of them, once I get beyond a few months out, are guesses really. But there is one thing I think we can say that's already true, and that is that the cost of making things is going down. Making things that work is going down. So one of the things that does is it makes it worthwhile to solve problems that were annoying, but not annoying enough that it would require going into a capital D design problem thing, right? It's like you think, well, to do this task, we have to do all this work to get the thing done. It's not worth it. But if I can vibe code it in an afternoon, it is worth it. And that is very true. Like one of the things we're going to do for ProofChat in the near future is we're going to make an add-on from the demo file. So as an example of this, this process I went through yesterday was we have a demo file, but to make an add-on, you can't have all the things that are in a demo file in the add-on because they'll all get added to the add-on and you don't want that. So the task I had to solve is how do I quickly delete all the things in the FileMaker file that I don't want in the add-on, right? All the demo data, all the demo tables, all of that stuff that we don't want in the add-on. The add-on is going to be much smaller. How do I do that? Manually, I can go in and delete the things, or I can use the solution update tool to make a patch file and apply the patch file to the file to strip out that stuff. Technology is great. How do I do that? Well, unfortunately, writing a patch file is not easy. It's a pain in the butt. In the old days, prior to vibe coding, I would have had to have come up with a way to parse the XML, to write all this by hand, parsing the XML to pick out the things that I wanted to delete, make a patch file out of that and do that. That would have taken some amount of time, a couple of weeks probably to do. With vibe coding, I gave it a design document and I wrote it in a couple of hours, right? So something that would have not been worth it to do before because it would have taken 2 weeks to do and I probably could have just manually deleted the things every time I wanted to make an add-on. I now have a piece of code that writes the patch file for me, and now I can apply it and be done, right? So there are things like that in the FileMaker world too, where it's like, yes, we could solve this problem, but it would be a pain in the butt to solve, so we're not going to solve it. We're just not going to do it. Or now I can say, well, if I just write this little script and give it to the AI can finish the edge case on it and get it done, and now it's done. Now that little thing that we only do once a month that would never have been worth doing, now I can do. And now the chat knows about it, and now the chat can just do it when it needs to do it, when you ask it to do it. That I think is absolutely true today, that the cost of doing things with AI is going down. So that means that you will be able to tackle problems that would not have been worth tackling before because the cost of doing them would have been too high. And it's clearly not the case today in many cases. And ProofChat kind of begins to give that to FileMaker. You know, we've got some ways to go with that, but it begins to expose this case where I don't need to make a layout, but what if I just give a tool to the chat and a script? That's a much lower lift. Then the chat is the UI. I'm done, right? No need to make a layout, no need to put a button anywhere, no need to do that. I just go in and say, chat, do whatever, run my financial reports for the month. Done, right? I just write the script. I don't have to write the UI or anything else, kind of thing.
So if a developer wants to start implementing ProofChat, where do they go? Where do they get started? What's the process look like?
ProofChat.ai.
Yeah,
That's
ProofChat.ai.
Yeah.
You can download it there.
You can download the demo file and start playing around with the demo file right away. If you want to integrate it, we have step-by-step instructions for integration. It takes for me, I've done integrations a number of times. It takes me under 30 minutes to do, but for somebody going through it the first time, it's probably an hour or two to go through, and then another couple of hours to begin to integrate it with your solution. So in an afternoon, you've got AI in your system. We're going to shorten that. Like I said, we'll have an add-on which will take the copy paste code part of that away. You will still need to configure it for your system. You still need to say, these are the tables I want to use to query, and we've got instructions on how to do that. And these are, and then you're going to write tools to get your sales numbers or you create contact or whatever. That's part that you're still going to have to do. But we expect that the integration process will go from 2 to 4 hours to, under an hour to get started once we have the add-on done. So still pretty short. So still a pretty short amount of time either way.
That's awesome. Okay, cool. And I know you've, Todd, you've been on Richard Carlton's stream, so you've talked about that quite a bit, and I think you're going to do a couple more of those. So there's content out there about it, which is awesome. And then we've got our own community where people can post questions and if they have any.
Yeah,
right?
community.automatic.cloud is the place to ask questions about it. We should talk about the different licensing that we have, because I think that's kind of interesting and important. We can do that now, or do we have anything else we want to cover before we get to that kind of stuff?
No, I think
Any other
now's the time.
So
go ahead,
licensing, It's actually pretty simple. I mean, I think the cool thing about ProofChat right out of the box is that it's shipping with a free edition, kind of a free tier that's fully functional, fully capable, no restrictions, and the only thing that we ask you not to do is to share your license key that's attached to that. Other than that, have fun, go to town. We are really keen on learning what people are doing and seeing the cool things people are building with it. And we intend on shipping a pro version at some point that will be a paid version that will be sort of tied to, loosely speaking, projects or servers. That's coming, and that will have, call it additional pro features. I mean, doesn't prevent you from, obviously getting started with a free tier right away, and I think it covers most of the general use cases that we have with AI. At least we imagine for now. The pro things will have some custom stuff, some specific features that we want to ship that I'll let you talk more about. And then on top of that, if you are interested in embedding or integrating or doing any enterprise level kind of site license or putting into your vertical solution that you've built, imagine you have a medical record system and you want a chat system running on top of that. You can do that, but just call us, talk to us, and we'll kind of structure something that makes sense for everybody. Yeah.
I mean, so just to flesh that out a bit. So we are encouraging people to embed ProofChat into anything that they want and give it away, share it however you want. You could even sell the thing that you build with it. We don't care. Like, go for it. The only thing you cannot sell, as Ernest said, is the license that you used to do it. And so then, your customers would have to come and get a license from us, but that's it. That's all they got to do is just fill out a form and they get a license. So you can give it away for free. You can include it in any paid products you want. We don't care. The advantages of the pro license will be, number one, you'll get rid of, if you choose to, get rid of our logo and branding, and there's an about page that has us in it and links to our website for like getting additional services and things like that. So the pro version, you can turn that off, and then you'll get some extra features, some other components and custom components and tools that will come built into that platform. But again, like, you want to make a demo file and experiment with AI and share it with your customers or put it up on the internet, you're welcome to. We encourage you to do that. In fact, if you do, we'd love it if you'd share it with us. And we'd love to see what people are building with it, and see how it's going. And also give us feedback in the community, like what things could we do to make it better? How could we make it easier to integrate? How can we improve the experience? All that kind of thing.
Yeah, if you build something cool, tag us in LinkedIn or do we still have an X or Twitter account?
I don't think we have a Twitter. I don't think we have a Twitter.
I think we don't.
Email our support account.
We have a LinkedIn.
We have a LinkedIn for sure.
I think we have a blue. I don't know if we have a Blue Sky, but we
definitely
have a LinkedIn.
We have a LinkedIn account. Tag us on LinkedIn.
All right, so let's see. We started in the elevator, and then we got out and chatted for a while, and now we're back in the elevator. So the call to action on the sales pitch back is to go to proofchat.ai and go download it and play with it.
Integrate.
There's a free tier, so it doesn't cost anything to try it out. And then to give us feedback, and there's a couple ways, and the ones that we feel pretty good about are LinkedIn or email or the community, right? Those are probably good ways.
Actually,
that's really important.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Not email. We're going to do community or LinkedIn. If you
exactly.
Okay, perfect. So LinkedIn and community are the best ways to share what your questions or share what you're working on, and we'd love to get that feedback. But we are looking for feedback.
Yeah, and also just like if you have questions, like the reason we say no email is we want to make this is a free product, so we want to make it clear how to get support, and that support is not email. It is through the automatic community, because otherwise, it'd be very hard to do a free product and also answer individual questions for individuals. In the community, that scales much better. You answer a question, now everybody can experience the answer to that question.
We'll drop those links below, but you can get to community at community.automatic.cloud or community.proofgeist.com. Both should work just fine. It's a community for all of our products and tools made by Proof, including ProofChat. One really important thing that I should stress is that this is a FileMaker module, meaning that you get all of our scripts that we use that come with ProofChat that are quote unquote, the private side of ProofChat that are totally open and exposed to you. And so this is a great learning tool to see how you build basic agentic flows and experiences and integrations. I mean, obviously you can just use it and you can bring your own scripts and whatnot, but we're sharing basically how this thing works under the hood with you. Again, this is partly because we think it's really important to develop kind of fluency and literacy around this stuff, and we're all learning together and advancing sort of AI in the FileMaker space. But I think that this is a layer of capability that is tremendously exciting, and we hope that you can share with us what you do.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Well, it sounds like this isn't the only episode where we'll talk about this. We've got a did it kill design conversation to have. We'll have some
we want to get
and stories.
I mean, just to stress, like the most important reason why we built ProofChat was to get to the next conversation.
That's right.
Which is now that you have AI in your system, what cool things can we build with it, right? We had to get to that. That was the next thing we had to get to. And so we wanted to just get rid of any of the stuff that kind of got in the way of that. And so that's what ProofChat is. So there's a lot of conversations to have around what to do with it. Data privacy is another one. We've got lots of links to privacy in the help docs and things like that. But how that works, because those are concerns you can talk to your customers about and that kind of thing. So, but importantly, we had to get over the hump of how do we make this look good inside of a FileMaker app, and ProofChat does that. That's its number one priority, and we think we did that.
And as long as listeners or watchers are still okay with this Formula One story that we came up with, which, by the way, let me just throw it out there. I cannot believe that either of you did not say FileMaker 1 yet. I just want to throw that out there.
I thought it might be trademarked or something.
You thought of it?
Because you would give me so much crap if I did that. I'm glad you brought it up, because
FileMaker. We could just say, isn't there a whole movie like F1 right now? It's all about this, right?
It's all about this.
I think it stars Brad Pitt. It's probably all about ProofChat. So go check that out.
It's probably all about ProofChat. I'm going to have him on the next episode. I'll reach out. This is going to be great.
Finally, they'll get some reason for people to log in, and watch us on video.
Exactly.
They won't just listen. They'll be like, oh, Brad Pitt's going to be on. We'll actually see how that goes.
That's
Brad,
awesome.
don't call us and try to
copyright infringement, any of that stuff. No,
Just
we
a
just
joke.
want to be your friend. That's all.
Be your friend.
But hey, if you want to promote ProofChat, please, by all means.
On your own will. This is awesome.
I think we might have just gotten in trouble there, but that's it.
This is awesome. Well, this is a great conversation. I think it's hopefully people will start using ProofChat, trying it out, and we will get some feedback. I'm excited about the next conversations, so I look forward to that. But
Thank you, Martha.
both for the
Yeah.
conversation.
Bye.
Thanks,
All
Martha.
right.
Appreciate
We'll
it.
talk soon.
Great.
Bye.
Bye.
Just as a reminder, this is available on YouTube and as a podcast, and make sure you check out the show notes, as there are a lot of links to share there. If you can take a minute to pause and subscribe, we'd really appreciate it, but better yet, if you can share it with a friend, that would be pretty awesome. No matter what your role is in this community, you're proof of how amazing this Claris community really is. My job is to help spread your knowledge and your stories on the podcast. Find me on Twitter at MZ123 or at ProofGeist, and let's share your story.